are these people?
This weekend, tons of stuff happened. I know you guys probably saw it around. You might have even been in DC to be there. Viewers at home. But protests mark third anniversary of Assange's arrest. Is from Popular Resistance. The third anniversary of the arrest and incarceration of Julian Assange in a maximum security prison has sparked protests in London and the United States. And I think this is like an older-ish article that they're redoing. Tomorrow marks 3 years since the WikiLeaks founder was forcibly dragged from the Ecuadorian embassy where he had sought asylum. Oh, this is before the embassy. He was there for how long was he at the embassy? Like
about 7 years, I think.
Yeah. So on top of this,
7 or 8 years.
Right. So vigils were due to held yesterday at the embassy, Westminster Magistrate Court at Belmarsh Prison, where he has been held for the past 3 years. Mr. Assange's family, friends, and supporters are calling for his release and the U.S. to drop its extradition case against him. Protests are also planned today in D.C., outside the British Embassy and the Department of Justice office. Speaking at the International Journalism Film Festival on Saturday, Mr. Assange's wife, Stella, warned that with every day he is locked up in Belmarsh, his health deteriorates further. Monday will be 3 years of his incarceration in Belmarsh prison, she said. He is locked in by himself for many hours a day, and you can just imagine what kind of effect that has on a person. He's in prison surrounded by a very dangerous people, but also a prison that cannot address his needs. He had a mini stroke in October, and obviously that is a sign of his health dramatically deteriorating. The pair, who have 2 children together, married last month inside Belmarsh. Mr. Assange is facing extradition to the U.S., where he was wanted for publishing thousands of classified documents relating to the Iraq and Afghanistan war, which exposed U.S. war crimes. A spokesperson from Doctors for Assange said, as another shameful anniversary passes, Julian Assange's life remains in danger. 3 years of political imprisonment in Belmarsh preceded by 7 years of arbitrary detention in the Ecuadorian embassy have predictably taken a terrible toll on Mr. Assange's mental and physical health, and still, unconscionably, he faces the prospect of extradition to and continued psychological torture in the United States. This political punishment by process must end now. So that was just a general article talking about the protests from this weekend. We also had protests in LA, right, for the mandates, right? And this is just a segment just on all the protests that happened this weekend. So we'll let Max talk about why he's here at this protest.
I'm Max Blumenthal from thegrayzone.com, and I regret to inform you that I'm a member of the media, the worst profession in the country. Actually, I'm one of the good ones. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk about what's been happening in the world for the last 2 years, because for 2 years, we have seen one of the biggest grassroots movements unfold before our eyes. The medical freedom movement, which has seen millions of people around the world march against unscientific, anti-worker mandates in their own societies, from the indigenous Bolivians of El Alto, to Moroccans of Casablanca, to Iranians in Tehran, from Beirut to Berlin, to Boston, to Los Angeles. And what is this about? It's about decent working people around the world trying to hold on to their humanity, their basic rights, their bodily autonomy, and their very sanity in the face of a cold and ruthless machine that seeks to reduce every individual to a QR code and condition their participation in society and their very ability to work on their willingness to take an experimental gene therapy. That is unacceptable. And you know what else is unacceptable? Those who try to make this into a right versus left issue. All they're trying to do is confuse, divide, hoodwink, and bamboozle on behalf of the billionaire class that represents the real winners of this pandemic. This is not about left versus right. This is about our economic rights, our human rights, and our constitutional rights. And that's why we're here today. We've watched for the past 2 years as Big Pharma and its oligarchic investors puppeteered our governments, putting the FDA and CDC in its back pocket while turning our politicians into corporate sales reps, guaranteeing Pfizer and Moderna combined profits of $65,000 per minute. Per minute! Using your bodies as profit centers while working class Americans suffered the sharpest increase in poverty in 50 years. We've watched the wealth of the world's 10 richest men double since the lockdown began. We have watched small businesses be destroyed, entire countries plunge deeper into debt, while the most vulnerable youth were deprived of their right to education. And now in New York City, we watch as wealthy and famous celebrities are allowed to work without a mandate, but healthy firefighters, medical workers, and teachers, people doing the most important jobs in this country, are not allowed to work because they disobey the mandate. And we are here to say, let them work! Let them work! Let them work! Let them work! Let them work!
Indeed, Angel. How dare he?
I know
yeah,
he
so we
had
had.
a meltdown.
Oh, I'm sure, and he goes on for another 3 minutes or so. You know, so he's already getting chants in the middle of his set. You know, so. But
Invited me. Hell, I'm ready to go fight.
Right? Definitely. Max is great at that. But I also have this our shout out to our friend of the show, Ricky Rants, for getting this coverage.
Ricky.
We have Miss Fiorella Isabel of the Convo Couch, everybody.
It's really shitty out there. The airports are a mess, people aren't working, people are in dire straits right now. And for the longest time, the United States has waged war against countries and hasn't seen the side effects.
Hold on. I gotta fix it. Slides doesn't like me today.
It's really shitty out there.
It still won't
The
full
airports
screen for
are a
some
mess,
reason.
people aren't working, people are in dire straits right now. And for the longest time, the United States has waged war against countries and hasn't seen the side effects. The people living here haven't really lived what it is to live as a victim of imperialism. But that's changing, and we can see that shift happening with what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, where the U.S. is waging a proxy war with Russia via Ukraine. It's really shitty out there.
Did I restart it again? What is going on? All right, hold on. Let me close this browser and like restart this whole slideshow.
Sorry about
She's
that.
right. It's really shitty out there. But,
It really is. It really is.
Oh, she's right, you know.
Absolutely. Let's go one more time. And action. Yeah, there we go. And of course, that's the wrong one.
It's really shitty out there.
Yes, it is.
The airports are a mess. People aren't working. People are in dire straits right now. And for the longest time, the United States has waged war against countries and hasn't seen the side effects. The people living here haven't really lived what it is to live as a victim of imperialism. But that's changing, and we can see that shift happening with what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, where the U.S. is waging a proxy war with Russia via Ukraine, and the massive propaganda that's happening, probably around here, where you'll see people demanding a no-fly zone, where they completely lack the significance of what that means. And we know that it means World War III. Under the guise of democracy, under the guise of humanitarian aid, why would Americans think that Joe Biden or any leader in the last few decades gives a damn about humanitarian aid and democracy when we don't have it right here? Tomorrow will be the anniversary, the third anniversary, not something celebrating, but the third anniversary where Julian Assange has been in Britain's Guantanamo Bay and Belmarsh. And more than ever, journalism and truth are in so much jeopardy everything that's happening now has been a culmination, has come to this culminating point where we are here today and the vast majority of people are still ignoring the reality that we're living in. The ruble keeps going up and the dollar keeps devaluing, and people don't understand what that means, and I don't think people realize what's happening here. This is a historic moment that we're living in, where we're seeing people start grasping that perhaps this time we will feel the side effects of war economically, because a lot of Americans don't really start complaining until they feel it in their pocket. And I understand that, because a lot of people are propagandized. This is the most propagandized country in the world. A lot of people don't have the awareness that a lot of you have here today. A lot of people are overworked, but the time for excuses has got to stop. We're at a point where people are going to suffer here. People are suffering already. People are suffering in Europe because of this war, and they have absolutely nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, we have journalists, we have people who used to work for the US government getting censored all over social media because they're telling the truth. They dare to tell a narrative that goes against the NATO narrative. And it's something that we've been talking about for a long time. A lot of you have been screaming about censorship for decades. And now we're at the moment where even people who were so pro-censorship and so critical of saying, well, Twitter's a private company.
I can't pause the video right now,
YouTube is a private entity, are seeing that there is no difference between YouTube, Twitter, the surveillance state, and the government. There is no difference between them. They are one and the same. This is why Jen Psaki can go get a job at MSNBC tomorrow, because guess what? She's doing the same job for better pay, and she gets to go and spew her propaganda. And the vast majority of people have started to see that, but we're in an age of cognitive dissonance right now where it's just so hard for them to look up and see that that's the reality they're living in. And it's more than ever vital for us to be out here, for us to be here tomorrow talking about what's happening to Julian. Because if we don't do it, nobody else will. And at the end of the day, in this moment, I think it's important to note that today we have voices here who speak out against the propaganda that's ignored the deaths of 14,000 Russian and ethnic minorities in the Donbass region for 8 years, but has decided that somehow the United States and their goons in NATO care about people dying in Ukraine. They're weaponizing these people. This isn't about Ukraine. This is about the United States control of natural resources and the region in Eurasia. But there is a shift, a multipolar shift happening right now where we're seeing China push back, Russia push back, and you don't have to pick teams, but I am telling you right now, the power that the United States had, where they had one in one hand and they were able to decide whatever happened, that is no longer the case. And be aware that it's going to affect each and every one of us. What does "and the damn wars" mean? And the damn wars means literally end wars. But sometimes they weaponize our emotions and our attempt to have no wars to try to get us to say, well, I hate all wars, so let's pretend the Russians and the United States empire that has thousands of military bases all over the world are the same. No other country in the world has the amount of military bases that we have. There is no comparison. We are an empire. The United States is not a nation, it's not a democracy, it's not a republic, it's an oligarchy. It is essentially a military industrial complex with a movie production company, as you can see with Sean Penn and Zelensky going to the Grammys and putting up green screen performances. So I thank all of you for being here, and I didn't intend to make a speech, but I really appreciate all of you guys being here, and I hope to see you tomorrow, where we really are going to be demanding that a journalist does not get punished for doing journalism. We're all in danger. Thank you.
So there was Fee. We had, is it going to let me out of full screen now? Go ahead.
Well, America is a dying empire. It's just an empire. We're dying. That's the thing.
Yeah.
She's right, but we're a dying empire. She should have added that, but
Yep.
Yeah, I could
Yep.
say that out of, I mean, the Assange persecution is probably, as a journalist, he is probably the journalist of our time. Like, he is the guy of our time, because what he did was he exposed a lot of secrets. The biggest dump, 100% like accuracy rating, and this is basically this is all that they're torturing him for one reason only. Like, two reasons. One is they hate him so much they want to do this to him. But the second reason is this is a warning shot. This is a warning shot to every single journalist who's not on the take, which is very few.
Yeah.
That if you do what he did, you're gonna suffer the same fate, and we're gonna torture him until he dies.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they're doing. This is basically what it is. So this is my opinion, and I think that he needs to be martyred, because it's the only thing we're going to be able to do for him. I mean, I'm being pessimistic, which is I shouldn't be, but I do not see like a good outcome for him in this. He's just their number one enemy. The American people don't give it. I mean, honestly, with the exception of people who are trying to help him, like, activists. But in my opinion, a majority of American people just don't even talk about him anymore. They don't care about him. And it's seeing that is, to me, is extremely disturbing. About it's just saying that the majority of the population just doesn't give a shit. Yeah. And the fact that they're going to get away with this, in my opinion, is just extremely disturbing. I think the only thing we can do is martyr him and try to use what has happened to him to encourage other journalists to step up and have it have the reverse effect of what they're trying to do. Yeah. Instead of trying to scare everyone shitless into not doing what he did, we have to sort of martyr him and make sure that journalists want to do what he did. That some journalists will be willing to sacrifice their freedom to help people see the truth. And that's to me is probably the way I take the whole thing. Yeah. But obviously I do hope, and I do want him to get out. I do want him to, see his family again. Well, and I would think it would be great that if he can get at least some part of his life back, but it's extremely depressing and sad to see. Yeah. Just what's happened to him, and just the fact that nobody really cares. And it's sad. It's just sad. See what kind of world we've become to do that.
Well, it wasn't but 4 or 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that people did care. When he was calling out Bush's double taps, or the lies about WMDs, or any of the times where he's not had to rescind something he's put out into the world. As far as what he's published, he's a publisher. Right. That's what he does. He publishes other people's information. But I know. And
they hated him. Like, the intelligence community hated him at that point, but he still had support of Democrats and the Clintons and things of that nature, because he exposed the Bush administration. But in the end, the minute he exposed Hillary Clinton and the Podesta emails, that was the end, because there was a lot in those emails. There was a lot in those emails. Even the war crimes that he exposed about Iraq and Afghanistan. The minute he exposed all the stuff that the Clintons were involved with, all the believe it or not, all the pedophilia stuff that was coming out of those leaks, it really showed a lot of people a lot of serious stuff. And the attention community was like, we can't have this.
Well, I know. Go ahead, Angel.
He's the Cronkite of our time, and on top of that, when he was exposing Bush administration crimes, he was beloved. If you remember, I remember 20 years ago, he was beloved. It's like, wow, Assange is cool. Then once you start exposing Obama administration crimes and Clinton crimes, oh my God, he was the worst enemy ever. He had to be arrested. He had to be charged. He had to be prosecuted. He spent 10 years. This is now over a decade. He's first spent time in the Ecuadorian embassy for 7, 8 years. And then now the last 3 years, he's been in Belmarsh, one of the worst prisons in the world. he's willing to die for what he believes in, and I have so much respect for that man that I'm amazed that he's still alive somehow. I mean, so much
Yeah.
respect for that man. I mean, I don't know if I can put up with what he has. I mean,
I know. I mean,
So
and
much-
he's not able. He's had a mini stroke. Even
yeah, exactly.
you know. So you know, this to me, I know Misty has talked about with you know, we have this his extradition hearing essentially the 20th, right?
Mhm.
Where and you know, she thinks it's probably just going to be a you know, stamped page procedure, you know.
Yeah.
That's a formality.
It does give us an opportunity to because he's here in the States, right? We now, it's like now the torch is being sent over to the American side, right? Where you know, we have the opportunity to be in places where he's at, possibly. You know, we haven't heard from him. Like,
No.
Right. My biggest hope for him is that, you know, obviously I think he's going to get extradited here, but my
Yeah.
biggest hope is that they extradite him here, and then they say, okay, we got him, and then they let him go.
yeah,
Sort of like making a
like time
statement.
served,
I'm
sort
hoping,
of. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I'm hoping that they do that. Like they say, okay, we got him. His mind is gone. He's pretty much a vegetable.
Right.
Let's let him go now. I'm hoping that's like the best case scenario.
Well, and that's
The
and that's
worst
the
case scenario
saddest.
is that.
It's the saddest part of it
Definitely.
to
Yeah,
me.
it is.
You know, and the first time I heard Misty say it, I was like, it killed me. I was like, Jesus Christ. You know, it's like she essentially said, we'll never have the same Julian Assange. It'll never be the same. You know,
I mean,
even if he gets out, it'll never be the
what they
same.
did to him.
Yeah,
I mean, you could tell they drugged him. I mean, they did so much things to him.
yeah.
And you can see it. So it's just a depressing case to follow.
You know, that's the thing. If he would have taken Trump's deal, none of this would have happened. Remember when Trump offered him that deal in exchange for his source in the RussiaGate story? He was willing to let him go,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he stayed with his principles. Like, no, I'm not giving up my source. So he's willing to martyr himself for his beliefs, and I
Yeah.
salute him. I mean, I would have taken that deal probably. I'll be real with you guys. I mean, if I were him, but I have so much respect for that man but I'm willing. I mean, if he's extradited here to the U.S., I mean, this fight isn't over. But yeah, I have so much respect for that man. Like I said before, that.
Yeah. So also this weekend, this is also Ricky stuff. You know, they this is the Pots and Pans March.
Disband
To end the
NATO!
Dams Wars.
No war with Russia! Disband NATO! No war with Russia!
So they did that. So super good of them. I would like more of that,
Ricky.
please. Ricky in there. You
100%.
can hear Ricky representing.
Yes.
But we also have friend of the show, Misty, who I should be on
Misty.
in an hour and a half on her show. So
Yeah,
people
that's
should go
awesome.
check that out. But
We got some banners. Hold on. Come for a walk. We're going on a walk, Alex. So we have some banners down here. Big old banner. So that's on. I'm trying not to show. I've been told not to show anybody's houses or cars because we don't want to get in trouble by Secret Service. I'm not trying to get arrested this time. Okay, so we have Free Assange and candles out. Another banner. Everybody say hi to Alex Hills.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex. We love you.
Assange.
Alex is a badass.
And also for the new people that joined in as well, because I know that.
Oh yeah, and other people who are not Alex. We love you too. We love you too.
but
So, yeah, we're just out here chilling. We're chilling. We're gonna be here until maybe I think sunsets at 7:30. So
yeah, they're out there all day for that. You know,
Come to Merrick
So-
Garland's house. How dare
Yeah.
you?
right? Don't do that. Don't
Washington,
whatever
yeah,
you do.
fuck that.
You know.
Yeah, I wish I could have been there, but I had.
Yeah, me too. I
some
wanted to be
duties.
there, but
Yeah.
it happens.